just a great song by Drew Holcomb.
No, it's also an awesome place to live.
And we want to talk to you about what it's like to live in Tennessee compared to Denmark right now. We're the Youngs.
We've spent our lives traveling the world.
And in 2018, we moved from
Chicago, Illinois to
Copenhagen, Denmark.
Now we want to share with you
how our new lives abroad
is keeping us young.
keeping us young.
are helping to keep us young. Hello.
Hi.
We thought it would be interesting to share with you a little bit about things that we think are different between the U.S. and Denmark. Yep. And we're going to have a series of different videos on different topics. Some will be heavier, like taxes and healthcare. Not today.
No.
Some will be, who knows, random other things. And in this case, we're going to talk about Tennessee and living in Tennessee because that's one of the 3 places that we live since we've been together in the U.S.
Yeah, and it's my home state.
It's where we met, and it's just one of our favorite places. It's also interesting because it's similar in terms of size. Yeah. I mean, it's not exactly the same size, certainly a very different shape. But it's not, I mean, it's bigger from a geographical standpoint, land size, but on population, it's not too different than Denmark. But there's country, then there's cities.
Yeah,
I mean, there's some interesting things that I think are pretty similar.
Pretty drastic changes in landscape as well. So
so we thought we'd talk about Tennessee. Yeah. And we lived in 3 places. Well, we actually never lived in Nashville, but we
lived just outside.
Just outside Nashville, and we worked in Nashville. Yeah. So Nashville would be like the size of Copenhagen-ish. Mm-hmm. And then we lived in we lived in Murfreesboro, which is about maybe 40 minutes away.
Yeah, and that's where we both went to university.
That'd be like Roskilde in size, maybe, and distance from the city. And then further away is Tullahoma, which would be like going to Holbæk or something, and certainly it's much smaller. So they're like, we've had a few places that I think are similar to some sized cities in Denmark that we lived in when we lived in Tennessee. Yeah. So one of the differences, because of the fact that things are so spread out, unfortunately, there's literally no public transportation there.
There's not even trains, I don't think.
No,
maybe there's like an Amtrak.
Oh, there's probably some Amtrak that just cuts through.
And I think there's maybe like one I'm sure there's probably more bus lines now, but I mean, but honestly, I don't really see them. I can't think of, they just don't have public transport there.
Yeah, so unlike Denmark, where you can get almost anywhere on a train or a combo of a train or a bus and whatever.
You have to have a car.
Not possible in Tennessee. So very reliant on cars. And if you think about the geography of it a bit, though, everything's pretty spread out because here, I always find it interesting. Copenhagen's a lot like Chicago, where half of the, one side of it is water.
Yeah.
And so people can't live there.
Yeah.
So all the bunches of people that live there have to live in jammed in one half.
Yeah.
In Nashville, there's all 100% 360 around. Yeah. So there's a lot more people spread out and further distance from one another outside of just the very central.
Yeah.
But that means you also definitely have to have a car because there's no public transport to get anywhere.
It can take you, over an hour to get from, like if you're going from all the way south of Nashville all the way up to north of Nashville, I mean, it could take you an hour, hour and a half.
Certainly with traffic and everything. So another thing is that's a little different is sports. Well, sports are big, but the sports that are big are different.
Yeah.
There's no handball. I know handball's going on right now. They're starting to get soccer, actually. The MLS is starting to pop into Nashville, so that's opening up soccer a little bit.
But it's still
NFL
pales in
NFL's big.
Yeah,
and college football and hockey. The Predators
and college
are
basketball too. Actually, the
Vandy is
Vanderbilt University
and Memphis is away, but they're a pretty decent team. So there is a sports culture, just different sports, and all that was coming in. Professional sports was coming in when we were leaving in 2000. So. The Predators had only been there a little while, and the Titans came in, that really brings in new life a little bit when there's sports and activity. That's what built up basically more bars and things downtown for people to do after games. And I think that really,
when the Titans came and they built the stadium on the east side of Nashville, that really, I think, kind of started that transformation process of East Nashville.
Yeah, so that's professional sports, but privately, there's tons of hunting, which is similar.
Yes.
I have friends here that hunt.
Yeah, and I come from a family of hunters. And now we always hunted in Missouri on my family's land, but you can actually go hunting, and they allow you to hunt. There's bears out in East Tennessee. We have black bears, and then there's elk. you can hunt turkeys and deer.
Yeah, I have friends that used to go hunting and get deer and bring it back, and that was kind of
I love a good deer.
And I'm sure in Tullahoma, where we lived, which is like ridiculously remote to me, nothing's going on there.
It was normal to me.
It's like 30 miles off the highway, which you're already like an hour away from Nashville, and then another 30 minutes.
Yeah, it was like an hour and a half.
Middle of nowhere. I'm sure people were shooting guns and all kinds of stuff in all kinds of places there. Just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
So that was, the hunting situation, which is a big sport, kind of personal sport.
It is a sport. It is considered a sport.
Yeah. So we're going to take a break for a moment to show you this new thing we've started. Yeah. This is the first time we've got this segment. It's called Try It on Tuesdays.
Yep. Then
I did that in like a radio voice. Did you say? Try It on Tuesdays.
And it's where we try things that you guys have told us to
Here
try.
on the Morning Zoo, we're trying on Tuesdays. Yeah, exactly. People would suggest us trying a whole bunch of things, and we listen and read all these comments. And so we thought, sometimes we'll have a big video like the Small Boy where there's a bunch of stuff. Yeah. But if there's like one random thing, then we thought we'd plop it in, try it on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And so we're going to cut right now to Miranda trying a hot dog and hot chocolate. So this is the first installment of Try It on Tuesdays.
We're quickly interrupting the video to start a whole new series that we're going to call Try It on Tuesdays. And it's just where we try a bunch of things that you guys have told us to try. And one of those things is a hot dog with a hot chocolate that you guys told us to try in the happiness video. So we're going to give it a try right now. We stopped at this little hut here and got a hot dog. So let's give it a try. So there's the hot dog. I think that's kind of questionable. So I'm not too sure I'm going to keep sticking to that. But you know what? We tried it. And maybe it'll grow on me. But anyway, that's it for this week's Trying Tuesdays.
All right. How was that try? I wasn't on camera eating it, but I did try some too.
You know what? I gave it my best shot, and I did finish the hot dog, and I was washing it down with hot chocolate, but it's just not flavors that I would put together.
Yeah, well,
sorry.
I hesitate to ask for more suggestions on Trying on Tuesday because we've been given a ton, and I know some people will probably recommend something that's already been said, but if you have something really unique in Denmark that you think would be interesting for us to try that you think maybe we haven't, let us know, and on Tuesdays, we'll try it. Yeah. It's the new segment.
I don't
Try it on Tuesdays.
Sturströmming, though. No.
So what?
That weird Swedish stinky fish.
Oh, the stinky fish. No, that's Swedish. We're talking about Denmark here. All right. So another thing we thought we'd mention is food, because there's such a big food culture here. And there's a big food culture in Nashville, but the style is drastically different.
Yeah.
Here it's a lot of, kind of like high-end. Well, I mean, there's all kinds of things, but obviously what brings a lot of people is Michelin star restaurants.
I think Copenhagen is known for really, really good. I mean, we've been to so many good restaurants, like the Fish Market down, and right next to it is War Pigs, and then there's Best and Noma, and like
we've never been to Noma, just so you know.
No.
And nor have we been to Geranium or anything. But there's a big concentration of ridiculously nice and expensive restaurants that would be like entire paychecks in Tennessee.
Yeah. No.
But in Tennessee the style is more like the southern,
very down home.
Great like chicken, fried chicken, Nashville hot chicken and waffle, lots of chicken. Also lots of barbecue.
Yeah.
Very southern vibe, and it's
barbecue.
And it's really good quality, but it's just like a completely different, like home style kind of vibe.
Very good. Like we in the U.S. we say it sticks to your bones, so it's like very heavy, stick to your bones kind of food, and you just don't have anything like it here.
And when we lived in Nashville, I literally had no money because I was a college student and I couldn't go to any of these places. Now I can, but I'm never there. I need to go back. So our friends Jen and Steve can take us because they're big foodies and they always take us to good places.
Yeah.
Although last time we were there, we ate at this like super cheesy but fantastically amazing Mexican restaurant.
Oh,
because you can't get
so good.
There's not very many like sloppy Mexican burrito
Mexican, that's
kind
what
of
I
stuff.
call it, yeah.
More like enchiladas.
Someplace called La Siesta,
Yeah.
La Siesta is where we ate at in
endless
Murfreesboro.
Chips and
the
queso.
The queso.
Queso dip. I have a friend whose mom would call queso dip, which if you don't, it's cheese dip.
It's like a white cheese dip.
And my friend's mom would call it cheese soup. And I think she just eat it with a spoon. Yeah. So good.
Oh,
so another thing is music.
Yes.
There's a big music scene here, but basically music is what's put a lot of Tennessee on the map. Now we're talking a lot about Nashville and music.
But East Tennessee, I mean, a lot of people come out of East Tennessee. Memphis.
Well, I mean, Dolly's out in East Tennessee, and there's been stuff out in East Tennessee. But Nashville, I mean, so much music is made there and produced there and created there. The people that make the music are fairly accessible. The people in the Americana genre, if you see the video we did about that music, they're very nice and accessible. Some of the big dog people in country maybe aren't so much, but they're around because it's Nashville, and Nashville is really not a massive place. I mean, it's like the size of Copenhagen. You run into people on 2nd Ave and various places quite frequently, or restaurants.
But that's how you ended up in Nashville, because you studied recording industry.
Yeah,
and so that's how you came out to Murfreesboro.
But then I went to a lot of things in Nashville and got to meet a ton of different folks in the industry back in those days.
Yeah, and I think the thing that people don't know about Nashville is that Nashville isn't just country music. I mean, obviously it is kind of the home of country music with the Ryman Auditorium and the Opry, but a lot of pop artists, a lot of rap artists, any number of kind of artists come out and they record their albums there because they just have amazing recording places there, like Studio A, and there's quite a few places there where people come and record, and it's partially because it's so much cheaper, but also just because they have the infrastructure for it.
Yeah, and that's led to basically a lot of the tourism in Nashville is tied to music. There's like big festivals and these events that bring people in. It's not like a history tourist place, and there aren't cruise ships that come in to bring tourists in.
There's
that are
no
off
kings
on
or
Baltic
queens
cruise.
buried there.
No kings or queens buried anywhere. There's probably I guess Elvis is buried in Memphis.
Yeah, maybe Johnny Cash.
He's
might
the
be
closest
buried
thing
there.
we have as to a king. I think Elvis
true.
in Memphis, but it's not like, and I guess Graceland's kind of like a mini castle. I've never been, but it's very different from the historical standpoint. There's like Civil War history. And that's basically where the history in Tennessee kind of begins. And then it kind of goes from there.
But I think Nashville does have, like, when we're talking about history, I think it does have this almost kind of like folklore to it, because so many people were drawn to Nashville. I mean, even Dolly Parton, who I love so much, I mean, she was drawn to
that's
Nashville.
Still recent history.
It is.
From the Danish perspective, that's like yesterday.
Yeah, I know. For us, it's a whole.
I mean, Vikings, if we had a meet, we met with a time travel and spoke to a Viking, you'd be like, Nashville, what?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it down with my axe or whatever. And so tourism, but that is kind of what draws people to Nashville is music, and then also it's becoming I guess the Midwest Vegas kind of the South, and there's like ridiculous amount of bachelor parties and bachelorette parties, and it's super annoying. These people in these pedal car things that ride around downtown Nashville drinking and screaming and making noise every few minutes.
I feel like such like a cranky old lady now when I go to Nashville, because I'm like, it's just people.
Nashvillians can't stand it.
Yeah, no.
I mean, none of them like this at all.
No.
Because they're outsiders that come in and just kind of like, make a mess and make noise and make it hard to get around normal life. So
I do have to criticize them about that. And I mean, and so you've seen like there's been a lot of developments. There's a lot of more bars that are kind of catering towards that, like Florida Georgia Line and places like that. And it's just kind of
and actually Tullahoma, where we used to live, the place in the middle of nowhere, is right next to Lynchburg, which is where Jack Daniels is from. So if you ever want to go to the Jack Daniels distillery, you'll go right through Tullahoma. And that's about the claim.
You'll miss it.
That's the claim to fame. Probably have to fill up your tank of gas there, maybe, and like get some kind of
there is
cold
the
beverage.
Fish hatchery. Don't forget about that.
That was in East Tennessee that we went to the fish hatchery. No, that was in Missouri. We went to the fish hatchery. There's probably a fish hatchery there.
I think there was one we went to.
No, we went to one of your aunts in Missouri.
Oh
yeah. So there's Jack Daniels, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Tennessee is also drawn to like people that go camping and people that enjoy the outdoors, because East Tennessee has all these mountains, gorgeous mountains. So it's not all just cities. It's just camping and nature and just getting out. We've done a bunch of nature type activities there.
Yeah.
Of course, there's Rock City, as you might know from our birdhouse video.
Yeah.
Which is southern Tennessee, right on the border with Georgia.
But close to where I'm from kind of right next to the really beautiful part of the Smoky Mountains. And if you just drive past Pigeon Forge, which is super touristy, and go into the heart of the Smokies, it is just, there's no place else like it. And especially at fall, when the leaves change, it is just spectacular and it's gorgeous.
So, I mean, with that, there's a few things that I guess Some of it are differences. Some of it are just things in Tennessee that make it Tennessee, which don't make it Denmark. But this is one of the places that we lived, and I think the way of life there was pretty calm, and the people were really nice.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, it reminded me of Denmark in terms of just the size and the scale.
And the landscape. I think Middle Tennessee I always tell people that being here in Denmark reminds me so much of being back in Middle Tennessee, because it does look so much like Middle Tennessee.
Yeah. And that's, I think I would recommend going because of the music.
Absolutely.
And to see a bit of a different place in America that's not New York or the East
Chicago
Coast or the West Coast or anything. It's very different, and it's like a real bit of America.
Yeah.
And fantastically nice people that will welcome you. So it's worth visiting.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed living there, and I would live there again, much like living here in Denmark. So much reminds me of it. So things are the same, things are different. It's America, Hey, it is what it is. So anyway, we thought we'd talk a little bit about Tennessee, some of the differences, and let us know if there's other things you want to know. We're going to build up kind of a library of different topics in different places. We'll talk about, we lived in D.C. for a while. Very different to Tennessee.
Very different.
And then we also lived in Chicago before we lived here.
I missed,
Also very different as well.
Yeah.
We'll touch on those in other videos. We'll also touch on places to visit.
Yeah.
And then other big differences, obviously, within kind of the system of taxes and healthcare and universities and all these things. Over time, we're going to work on this stuff. But we love Tennessee. We were in a Tennessee mood today.
Yep.
I pulled out our Tennessee Starbucks mug and had some tea, stuck on my hat, and said, let's talk about Tennessee.
Yep.
So thanks for joining us. Please subscribe if you haven't.
Please.
Continue to engage and comment. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
keep track
we love it so
of
much.
absolutely everything. We love hearing from you guys. It's been amazing so far. And this journey's just started, and we're so glad that you're taking it with us.
We're so excited.
And there you go. So if you want to know about Tennessee, absolutely let us know. Yep. We'll talk about it all day long. We love it. But until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye. I was there for Tennessee, in Tennessee.